unstoppable kick-ass confidence. Are you ready?
Welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show with Christopher Rausch, where we help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. Now please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to a special edition of the Raw and Unscripted show. I am your host, Christopher Rausch, the place where I help you overcome your self-created crap without the self-help fluffy bullshit. And I appreciate you guys being here, whether you're live or on the replay. We do these special broadcasts every once in a while. The Raw and Unscripted show is a way of bringing you special guests, giving you special advance notice of events that are going on that you might want to support, and just a great way of just bringing you information throughout your day that can help you change your perspectives about what it is that's going on in your life and be able to be a part of the solution rather than part of the problem. And today we've got an exciting guest for you to come on today. We're going to be talking about all things women. So please welcome to the Raw and Unscripted show, special show. We've got Monica Kretschmer from the Universal Women's Network. What's going on, Monica? Thank you for being here today.
Well, I am super excited, of course, to be on your show again. You just have so much energy. I'm sitting here listening to you in the background, and I'm like, I'm glad we made this happen today.
Yes, most definitely. So let's jump right into it. So you are the CEO and the founder of the Universal Women's Network up there in the beautiful country of Canada, right?
Absolutely. In the very smoky end of Canada, with all of the fires burning in Alberta, because we've had actually weather that's been more like July. You know, it's been very dry, and so we are in a haze of smoke right now.
Oh wow, I didn't even know about that. I knew in Vancouver, one of my buddies said it was already like 90 there.
Yeah, it's been extremely hot, really beautiful, but there's been a lot of fires as a result. So hopefully we're going to get over that soon.
Yeah, I always think about the animals in those situations. Like people can evacuate, but what do the animals do that live there? Like my friend in Australia showed me fires from last summer and all the kangaroos, and it was just horrifying to see what was going on with these poor animals.
Yeah.
Mm.
So on to better things. I'm excited to talk about SupportHER. Of course, you have a fantastic story as well. So
yes,
I look forward to having you on my podcast, Chris.
Yes, we will do that. We will do that. And one of the reasons why that I'm so passionate about this, just to give everybody kind of a background who's watching the show and listening to the podcast. I was raised by a single mom. I never knew my biological father. And so I got the opportunity to see what a powerfully strong woman could do in her life, especially back in the late 60s and early 70s when things were still a little bit more tougher for women. Things have made a lot of progress over the years, but still there's a lot of work to be done. And Monica, you created the Universal Women's Network out of a particular situation in your life. You want to talk about what inspired you to create this amazing organization?
So it all goes back to why. I think that everybody, and I share this a lot, is that everyone starts a business for a certain purpose. And there's usually something that sort of drives them sort of, jump in with both feet and say, you know what, I'm leaving the corporate world and I'm starting my own business. And for me, that was actually going through what I call my 7-year journey. And that was through the court system. I got married late. So I was 35 when I got married, 36 when I had my son. And, 15 months later after I got married, I was walking out the door with my 7-month-old baby. And, did I ever picture myself to be a single mom? No, that's not the picture that I, had planned for. But when you're in that situation, you don't bother thinking about, geez, is that the perfect situation? Do I hang on tight and go for the ride that may be bumpy, or do I just leave? And it wasn't a decision that I could even think about. It was just like, go. And so that was really the beginning of my 7-year journey, which ended up being something that I wouldn't have, again, pictured myself having to go through, which was through the court system. And so, I think of the 4,800 hours of litigation, the 22 days of trial, all the way to Supreme Court. You ask me when I, like 14 years ago, 16 years ago, if I'd ever pictured my life to have, gone through that. And actually the power as a woman to actually get through that. I would have never imagined it in a million years. But I have to tell you, there's a very, very silver lining here. And that is that when you have gone through adversity, grit, ambition, resilience, tenacity, you actually realize how strong you are as a person and individual. When you have no other choice accept plan A. And I talk about this. I just actually did a blog about plan A or plan B. I didn't have plan B. There was only plan A. I had to make it work. And so, I think it's a true gift. And I truly do believe that is that when you go through such hardships and adversity, you would never, ever do that to yourself knowingly.
No,
right?
it's true. It's
The
true. That
despair
creates
and the
leverage.
darkness and the kind of wake yourself up in the middle of the night going, okay, go forward or go backwards. There's only one way to go, and you've got to find a way of making it work. And so whenever I go through, growth in the company or even COVID for that instance, I always go back to the place where I was at, kind of leaving that relationship and going, what, you got through that, you can get through anything.
100%, Monica. And I just want to reiterate what you just said is so important. So many people don't realize just that they've survived 100% of all the different tragedies and all the different heartaches and breaks and everything that's happened in their life. And I tell people, and I want you guys all to hear this when you're listening to this conversation, is the fact that life is happening for you and not to you, number one. And God doesn't give you what you can't handle. We know that. And number three is the fact that what if you sat there and shifted your perspective to realize that everything has happened for you in your life that you may think is bad, and everything that's happening now in your life is preparing you for what's next. Would you agree with that, Monica? Thinking about looking back on your life now and going, everything was preparing you for doing what you're doing right now.
Without a doubt. And I've said resilience is not what was done to you.
Yep.
It's what you choose to do with what was done. Or, it's just coming out that other side. And, we're all here for relatively a short period of time on earth. And what is our purpose? What is the impact that we're here to make in the world? And I think we're each given an opportunity to shine. We're each given an opportunity to do something great, whatever that is for anybody. And we all have a different purpose. We all have a different story. And as I say, every woman has a story. Your story doesn't define you. Nope. It empowers you.
It does. It does. And when I think about what you've done with your son and everything that you've done with the Universal Women's Network, what are some things that you're most proud of when you look back on the history of it now? I mean, there's no time to stop because you got so many things going on, but what are some of the things that you're really proud of? What is the Universal Women's Network done that shines a light on what it is that you're doing?
So from the beginning, I think it was that, mindset that I wanted to create a network where every woman's voice belonged. I was hell-bent on inclusivity and welcoming every voice to the table with a shared value system. And because I looked around, I saw a lot of silos that existed for women, and I wanted to break the silos. And, I was met with a lot of resistance. It was like, focus on one type of woman. And that really never resonated with me. I'm like, women, we go through life, we leave corporate, go to our own businesses. I mean, we wear so many different hats. We can't possibly just focus on one type of woman, because I don't believe there is just one type of woman.
Right.
And so when I look back, one thing I'm the most proud of is that I stuck to my purpose and my vision and my goals, regardless of how hard it was to break through that. Because jump forward 9 years later.
Yeah.
What is a sexy thing right now? Diversity, equity, inclusion, all voices represented. And if you're not really participating in that discussion, your businesses don't flourish. Everything really supports that diverse leadership and the voices where everyone brings something to the table. So I think that if you can ask me one thing that I have a couple things, but that's the first one, is that I stuck to my vision, and regardless of how hard it was, to try and share something when the world was not open to receiving that, is something I'm really proud of.
Yeah. And I would be proud of that. I want to dig a little deeper into that for people watching and listening to this. Talk to us about what that mindset was like to sit there and face like the darkest hours of your life and go, okay, how am I going to get through this? I mean, what kind of support did you have? Did you have any support? And what were some of the main things that kept you going during those challenging times? Because I talk to so many people every day, Monica, and they're like, Chris, I just don't have what it takes. And I'm doing the best that I can. And I realize that they think they're doing the best that they can, given what they've been exposed to, but there's so much more that people are resilient, that have the resiliency in there. Talk to us about what got you through those opportunities, and maybe some tips that can help some other fellow women that might be watching this go through those times right now themselves.
So the first thing is I manifested. I focused on positively only. Like I used to joke, this is, during during that time, it was Marcy Shimoff, and she had the book Happy for No Reason. And I remember I was fresh out of the women's shelter, and I had the opportunity to attend one of her book signings, and she was speaking at the Jubilee Auditorium. So I took my book because I was like, I am literally happy for absolutely no reason. I have just, left a relationship with an infant. I've spent 2 weeks in a shelter. I'm just fresh out. I think I lost about 30 pounds. I mean, like my world was upside down, but I was truly happy. I was happy not to be in that situation. I was happy knowing my power. And I was really, I had to focus so hard on, you know what, I'm breathing, I'm living, I'm happy, and really for no reason. And I made it kind of, a daily ritual of what would bring me joy. And so it sounds really crazy. It's going to be, I had a playlist that I would play, and it was like Josh Groban. That was on my playlist over and over and over again. And I would take my son and I would literally dance with him in the living room. I swear there was like this little, kind of worn out path in the living room because I would dance with him. I wanted him to feel joy, not sorrow, not darkness, not me sending off my vibes. So for me to like make sure that his vibes as a baby wasn't kind of brought down by what I was going through, I brought joy through that. So it was like, you are loved, and he would be giggling. And, I mean, when a baby laughs or, it brings a lot of joy. So I did that. I danced my buns off. I had a playlist. And, I sang in the car. It was like, what a wonderful world. You were loved, good girls don't cry, like whatever. Like I have a playlist. And I literally, The Climb, Miley Cyrus, right? Like all of these songs were on my playlist, Invincible, Headley, you name it. Anyways, pick a song. Pick something you like to do, and then bring as much joy into your life daily as you can. And you know what? It's tricking your mind. It's like, really? This isn't the worst. The worst is that you're not even here to breathe and talk about it.
Yes.
So,
it's all about perspective, Monica. What you're talking about is so true. And I've personally done this myself, and I've done it with my coaching clients just as music. I mean, obviously I love music. And so I have a playlist, I have a morning playlist. And sometimes I'll be going to my corporate job and I'll be like, oh my God, this is going to be suck. And this is going to be suck. And I would find myself in a terrible mood before I'd even get there. So I'd throw on a couple of these songs and I would sing at the top of my lungs, because when you start singing and you start dancing, to your point, you start releasing endorphins, you start feeling good. And even though I was going to work, I would sit there and sing ABBA, Dancing Queen. I would sing Hanson Mbop. I would sing, all these fun songs, and I would get to work and my physiology would be different. And I'd be ready to like, go, let's go. Things are going to suck. But if I have the perspective that they're going to suck, then they're going to suck worse. But if I have the perspective to say, hey, listen, this is going to be a challenge, but I'm going to get through this challenge with as much joy and possibility and opportunity that I possibly can, because I can look at it from two ways. I can look at it from a victim standpoint and saying, oh God, poor me, what's going to happen and how is this going to suck? Or I can sit there and say, wow, this is an opportunity for me to prove myself. This is an opportunity for me to bring something that I haven't brought yet before, because I know that I'm capable of it. I know I deserve it. And I know the people around me deserve that as well. One of the things that I want to dig into before we go back to the Universal Women's Network is a lot of us sit there and we take on the opinions and the everything else, the baggage of what other people think about us. And I'm this and I'm that. And I'm sure you heard it from your ex-husband. How do we get ourselves to be able to not take that as truth, and to be able to sit there and spit that back out and say, that's just your opinion. That is not the truth of who I am.
So that's a great question. And I can honestly say, in the thick of it, I didn't have any time to worry about what other people thought about me. Like I was just clearly, I am on my own path, survival mode. It's when you're in survival mode, it's just like, you don't give a rat's ass what anybody else thinks. You're just trying to get to the next. And so I actually was oblivious to what everybody else thought. And to be quite truthful, I only had, 5 people on the circle of my hand. One was my lawyer that I talked to daily and my core circle of friends. Other than that, people had no idea what I was going through because I didn't talk about it. I was so busy. I was focused on my son. I was focused on getting through all the litigation and just keeping my head above water. Like I I even held a full-time job, and, I ran like a mad woman to try and get everything done, but I didn't have time to socialize. There was no social media. There was nothing. It was like I was laser focused on what I needed to get done just to get me through that time. And so I didn't give a rat's ass, to be honest. And, I think that probably social media, and if you actually, kind of let that vortex pull you in, there's some damage that can be done, but just, you got to kind of close that door and say, you know what, stay focused. You're on your own path, kind of put the blinders on.
You do. You really have to do. You have to sit there and think, okay. And this is how I tell my coaching clients. I'm like, that was yesterday's Monica. That was yesterday's Chris. That was yesterday's Peggy. That was yesterday. I'm no longer that person anymore. I'm not that person that's going to allow people to walk all over me. I'm not going to be that person that's going to take in all of your opinions and think that they're true about me. This is the day that I start truly living my brilliance and my life for my reasons and for my whys, right? And that's what you beautifully articulate. And when I had you on the show before, I was so blown away. And I told you this privately. I use you so many different times in a positive way, talking about your strength and your resiliency, going from being, married woman and have this brand new baby and everything's going great. And you're taking care of, donating to this women's shelter. Then the next thing you know, you're at the women's shelter, right? And talking to people like when you're at your lowest of lows, thinking, oh my God. And then to bounce back and to create this amazing organization that's fighting for women's rights. The question I have for you, and I can't believe that I'm having to ask this in this point in time in our world. I mean, it's 2023, but are women's rights, are women being treated fair and equally because I know you're in Canada, I know here in the United States for one, last year, something I'm completely embarrassed by, the fact that our Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade here in the United States. And now we've got all this, clusterfuck of going on in the different states and whatnot. Are we making progress for women's rights?
That was a cricket.
I know. Yeah.
That was like the pregnant pause. It's a really, for as much progress as we've made, we need to be much further. As many opportunities we've had, or platforms, I can't even speak today, platforms like social media that we've had the opportunity. I think now is a time, like, here, I wore this for you today. Women are driving change, right? And so there's barriers, there's roadblocks that are being put up with us. But however, I think that it is the consistent action and the voices that are going to really drive through all the BS and, not give up, right? We're resilient. I think there's opportunity right now that, we see the unrest. We see, how Roe versus Wade, I mean, who would have thought, after working so hard for 50 years, like in Canada, we're like going, this is nonsense. Like, you're our sisters and our brothers, right? Yep. And so we want, the same sort of freedoms for everybody. But I think there's a great opportunity, Chris, where we can make change in the positive direction by inviting half the population to the question. To the situation, and provide the solution. So, we created Universal Women's Network as a network to really unlock the ripple effect, to inspire change, to advance women in business, to celebrate the achievements of women, but also to provide a platform for our SupportHERs to actually unite so that we can actually move it together, because together we are stronger, right? So by inviting men to the conversation, not just inviting them in, but actually having them take action and leading by example, I think that we can actually do more work. And what I was seeing as a founder of a women's organization, and I mean, I'm guilty of this. We didn't, even though it was open to men, but we didn't actually have too many men in the room. I mean, I think we had probably more men than other organizations did, because it was all about inclusivity. And of course, my son was there as a champion for me, and I welcome men to be in the room. But I didn't really take as strong of a position as to move it forward. We really need to have all voices represented, that diverse leadership, and we need to have our allies part of the solution.
Yes, yes, yes. And I want to talk about, let's dig into SupportHER. That's one of the things that I'm advocating here to be a part of this conversation. Talk to us what that program looks like and what are some things that men can do in our world, no matter where we're at logistically, to be a supporter of what you have going on with the Universal Women's Network and SupportHER Day, which we have coming up on June 2nd, correct?
I love the banner. Thank you. That's awesome. So my son was 12. So give you a little bit of background here. So my son was 12 in 2018, if I do the numbers right. And I was running out the door to do women's events. And, you know, I always had to drop him off to my mom. And I'm like, okay, I'll be back soon. While I'm off, you know, championing for women, I would leave my son. And then it kind of just hit me like a ton of bricks. Where are your role models? Where are the men that you can look up to that are actually going to say, you know what, champion for women, support women, you know, like you bring value to the table as a man, you know, and that part that you play is really important. So that's when we started talking about SupportHER. And I don't know if I've chatted with you about this, but when I first voiced that idea to then some of my advisors, not the existing advisors that I have on my team, I mean, I've had several over the years, but they cautioned me. They said, are you sure you want to upset this apple cart and talk about celebrating and raising the profiles of men when you're in a women's organization?
Yeah.
And this was at the height of Me Too. So also not, you know,
Yeah.
it was also a very, historical time for women to be finally heard and for men to be kind of, that representation for women to speak out for actually, for being so unheard and violated.
Horrible.
Anyways, it was and I thought, you know what? We need the good guys to come to the table. We need the champions on board. And so that's when the conversation started 5 years ago. And over that period of time, I've been keeping pretty consistent with it. We actually have an award for our allies for Women of Inspiration, because I wanted to make sure that we had the role models, the ones that are champions. Forget about the dudes that are, pulling us down, that are, we don't want to do business with them. We don't want to be around them. I mean, I think I'm going to just say 1, 2, and 3. There's 3 buckets. There's the men that realize their role and they're taking action to champion for women. Then there's the bucket number 2 going, I'm aware of it, but I'm really not sure how I can play a role. But I know it's important and I'd like to be part of that conversation and solution. And number 3, the ones that do not put it as a priority, they really don't give a rat's ass. Forget about the bottom third. Let's focus on the top 2.
Yeah.
And so that's what SupportHER is all about, and I really wanted to make sure that it was a SupportHER day. So everyone knows that every single person has an opportunity to take one action to champion for women. It doesn't have to be a community in the workplace, but it can sure, if a company wants to get on board and be a champion, think of the different ways that you can empower your employees within the organization to work towards one common goal where everybody feels like they have a sense of belonging and they're valued for what they bring to the table. So it's, from a business perspective, opening up doors and opportunities for women to advance in business, giving them opportunities to, for stretch assignments, right? I mean, there's a million different ways within the workforce that companies can sort of champion for women, like nominate them, recognize them, provide them opportunities to speak. When you go into meetings, make sure they're at the table, period.
Yeah.
Let's just make sure they're at the table, they're in the room. And we're not talking only at one level. We're talking all the way
All
through
levels, yeah.
wherever decisions are being made. And, in the community, the same thing happens. There's things that happen in our community that, if you were actually witnessing and you don't speak up because you're actually just, letting it happen, that's wrong, right? So speak up when you see something that's not right. And at home, take more of the lion's share of the responsibility. Don't leave all of that work to just one person. Be an active participant with the kids and the caretaking of the house and the household responsibilities, because we all know what happened during COVID, right?
Yeah. Everything went to shit. Well, some things went to shit. Some things got better.
Well, and it was interesting because for as hard as it was for women, I think women have been probably the most prepared because we've always had to work that much harder. And so when COVID hit, we had that resilience muscles already flexed.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it was hard and it was super, super hard on us, but I think we were the most prepared because we've always been running so hard. But it was really pretty hard to ignore, the lion's share of the roles and responsibilities that fall on women, which I think the ripple effect helps support now, because you couldn't, you'd have to be hiding under a rock to actually not see the differences and the roles, right? And
Oh, yeah.
how much more women had to deal with.
Yeah. And I love what you're talking about, Monica, because it's a fact that we all have a responsibility. We all have an obligation, to make humanity, whether you're black, white, straight, gay, Republican, Democrat, whatever label you want to put on it, that we're lifting each other up, no matter what labels that we have for one another. And one of the things that I've done personally in my life is I'm a guy's guy. I'm a dude, I love women and all sorts of stuff. But one of the things that I've been able to do, being raised by a powerful woman, supposedly my mom, allegedly back in the 60s, was the first woman in the state of California to sue a major organization for discrimination. So basically she worked on the warehouse manufacturing floor. She worked in purchasing, but she would have to go out on the manufacturing floor quite often, and men got to wear pants and she had to wear skirts. And she's like, no, this is bullshit. She goes, I'm going to wear pants too. And so basically she sued Mattel Toys in the late 60s to be able to change the dress code for women. So she fought for that. So I've seen that personally in my life. And so when I get guys that are around me and they start objectifying women, or they start making jokes, jokes that aren't specifically intentionally harmful, that's one thing. But when you're sitting there saying, oh, my wife should, then I take that responsibility as that strong man who's advocating for women to say, hey, listen, dude, I realize you're kind of joking around about that, but that, when you're saying that to your wife, or you're saying that in front of your daughters, or saying that in front of other people, you may think it's a joke, but depending on the tone you say it, they may sit there and think, oh, that person thinks this. So I'm like, do you want your friends thinking like, oh, you objectify women, or you don't treat your wife with respect? So I catch people all the time doing that stuff. And they're like, wow, Chris, every once in a while I get like, who are you? And, are you the women police and stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah, actually I am. We all have to speak up and say something. But for the most part, most guys go, wow, thank you for saying that. I didn't really consider that. It's just kind of like, I've always done that. I've always been this person. Talk to us about some of the lessons and the growth that your son has seen in his own life and his life with you through this entire experience.
It's interesting because, he's 16 now, and
gorgeous dude, by the way. He's a good looking guy.
He is a handsome dude. But I do have to say, probably one of my proudest moments is, seeing he has a girlfriend now, super, super lovely young lady. And, his choice in women, is he's respectful and he's playful, and, he understands, he's seen me, all this way. And I don't really think he understood fully my challenges, because I haven't really shared that with him.
Sure.
There's a time and there's a place, but he's seen how hard I've worked, my whole life as being raised by a single mom. So I'm now just seeing a glimpse of some of the values that I've instilled into him. And one comment from one of the moms was, my son, your son came over and he was like the police, like he made sure that she got home safely. And, he came over and helped her. And, he was trying to sort of, he was like a best friend and almost like a bodyguard, not a bodyguard, but he was protective of her. And so I really do love the fact that, there's that man-woman relationship piece that we can work together, lean on each other for support. I think it's really important. And, to have best friends that are women, not just partners for dating, but be able to have best friends that are actually, of the opposite sex, I think is really valuable as well. So I'm just on the brink to see kind of, the impact that he has to make. And in my perfect world, I'd love, for him to get more involved, but it's got to be his choice, right? So I don't want to push it too much. I want to let him come to me and say, Mom, I really, really love the message, and how can I play a role on a bigger stage to influence, young leader, because I think that's where it is right now. So fingers crossed, but I'm going to let him come to me and not force that too much.
I love that. Well, I hope that by him seeing me, perhaps that inspires him a little bit as well, because to your point, I've had friends all my life, mostly women friends, and I'm blessed for that because I've learned so many things and so many aspects about women that have helped me date women, obviously, helped me be successful in relationships with women, but also opened my eyes to really understand, I mean, menstrual periods and all these different, and guys, you know, flirting with them and just like, oh my God, I can't go anywhere without a guy staring at my tits and all these, it's like being able to learn that stuff and see that firsthand and hear my friends like crying, you know, because of a guy, you know, used him or something like that. I think it's important that obviously we all have those friends of different backgrounds so that we can learn and grow one another. And I love the fact that your son's doing that. So whatever I could do to inspire him as well, I would love to do that. And that draws me to the next question before I go back to Women of Inspiration. Is there any programs that you're going to be rolling out to schools, this program to younger kids, the younger generation?
Oh my gosh, there's a great big list. I know that we have created a SupportHER certification program. And so I think, you know, let's go back to, you know, how can everybody play a role and, you know, the opportunities, I think is, we talked about it, to be an ally, to use your voice, to lead by example. But when you're coming into a room, I guess it's just to be at that safe place for men. Like you have to be that safe place. And so the certification really empowers, I would say, men and women, because it's not just for men, but it would provide men the opportunity, number one, to know what the barriers are, right? Mm-hmm. What the barriers are. Even if you have a sister and a mom and you have a little bit more insight than, you know, the average guy, you know, it provides you with the tools to provide the insights, brings awareness, and then some sort of applications and tools of, you know, the role that you play and sort of where you fit and right. You know, to give you confidence, because I can't even imagine how daunting it must be for some men to just jump in when they're like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, you know? So a SupportHER certification allows, you know, us to work together to sort of, you know, see what we can do to move it forward. Schools would be a great place. Love to get involved with schools. I mean, that's a whole other, that would be a whole other conversation, you know, that we've talked about it. But we're going to start with the companies first. And I think that will be a natural flow. I mean, we've got parents within organizations, moms and dads, and, you know, getting the business leaders that are, you know, the CEOs of companies embracing that allyship and that diverse leadership and using their voice creates a ripple effect. And then, of course, those opportunities can be like filtered down to the schools and to the kids. Has to start somewhere.
It does. And question just went right straight out. Oh, that's what I was going to ask. And speaking of generational differences, I mean, we have baby boomers in the workplace, Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Z. Are you noticing a difference in the generations and how they view women? Is the younger generation more inclusive of women? Do they have less stereotypical thoughts and ideas about women as like the older generation does? Do you find there's a difference in that?
You know, I think the work that we're doing now, we're going to definitely see a difference for sure. You know, I think it's all genders. You know, I mean, I just was in San Diego and I was, you know, Mac was on stage and Aida was speaking, all genders, all races, all ages. And I think those messages and the focus that we have in diversity, equity, inclusion right now are everyday conversations that are being had that weren't being had in our, you know, when we were growing up. And so I think that, yes, we will see that difference because the conversations that we weren't having, you know, in our generation or, you know, our parents' generation, right? Mm-hmm. I think there's harnessing of some amazing power that we have the opportunity that I definitely think we will see surface. So yes, the answer is yes.
Love it.
There is differences, but I see how it's all going to sort of unfold where it's going to be more embraced.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I've been telling my older friends that I think it's the younger generation that's going to turn back the clock on a lot of the racism, the inequalities, the things that are going on in politics. It's going to be out with the old group, and it's going to be in with the new group that's more inclusive and more solution oriented for everybody. Equality for everybody, equanimity for everybody. And you said something before. You said the Women of Inspiration Awards, and I want to kind of capture that because I know a few of the women that have been in that category. Talk to us about that Women of Inspiration Awards and some of the people you've celebrated in since having that award created.
So the first one was for my lawyer. So I created Women of Inspiration Awards when I had the idea for the network. That was our celebration pillar. So our very first award recipient was actually my lawyer. And, I said that, there's a special place in heaven with her name on it. But, I wanted to do something significant, and it's a legacy. Who would have known that, standing on the stage in 2015, acknowledging a woman for believing in me as a woman of inspiration, the story is very inspiring. Nobody knew what was going on. They didn't know her 4,800 hours of litigation, the 22 days of trial. They didn't know my story. And I thought this is a way to harness recognizing her. And as I was on stage, deer in headlights, everybody's like, I have a woman of inspiration. I am a woman of inspiration. And so that's where Woman of Inspiration has grown over the past 9 years. We've celebrated so many incredible women. I think our youngest, I'm going to go with that one first. So our youngest, she was 8 years old when she applied. And I thought, you know what? We had 16 and above. And I thought, geez, we've never had an 8-year-old apply. So let's just remove that barrier just because we can, up to the age of 34. So she was actually in the category for a millennial leader, and she blew everybody away. Her nomination package, what she'd accomplished, like a rock star, and she's still just moving mountains. So Sophia Fairweather, there's a shout out to Sophia. She was our very, very first. And now because of Sophia, we have an actual award category for Youth Excellence Awards. So Kaya Gamble, and, we've got some amazing young women that we've celebrated. We've also went to the other spectrum for lifetime award recipients. And so we've had the honor of celebrating your friend and mine, Patricia Gagich. And, an international woman, a female artist that is literally breaking barriers for women around the world because her art, and I mean, her art is mind blowing, but she's so, how would you say, like, inspirational on so many different levels, from her spiritual, her karma, to her drive and her tenacity is pretty special. So I know that she's you have had her on your show here a lot, and I know Patricia very well, and it's really interesting. I really truly do believe that it's a value set that's really different. The Women of Inspiration all have that shared value system. They want to empower other women. They are fiercely, determined to make an impact in the world. And they just continue unapologetically to come to the table and carve that path, not only for themselves, but for others by doing and stepping into the spotlight. So they are badass women that are just really taking that step to, pave the road for others to follow. And of course, who else have we had? Hazel Hurricane McKellian, who of course we celebrated in 2021, right before her passing, which was last year. So, and some amazing women that have just made such an impact in the world. And I honestly do believe that we can't celebrate the achievements of women enough. We need to see females in leadership and role model positions at every level.
Yes. I want to see a woman president. Yes. That's what that would be ideal. Monica, this has been such a great conversation having you here with me and just supporting what we can do to highlight the Women's Universal Network and the Women of Inspiration Awards and Support Her Day. What's next for you guys? What's the big goal here in 2023 and beyond?
So I am super excited that we are back in person for Woman of Inspiration Awards, after being virtual for 2020, 2021, and 2022. So I'm super excited that we're in Toronto, November 3rd for the awards. Nominations are still open. Of course, you can nominate 365 days a year. Nominations for 2023 close with the packages on November. June 15th, and our awards in the fall. That is going to actually be such, how would you say, we're setting a new bar for awards and celebration and just gathering and connecting of not only the women that are leading by example and inspiring others, but also the companies that are committed to equity, diversity, inclusion. Those people that are in the room all have one common goal, and that's to raise the profiles of women. So we're going to see some really exciting things coming up. We have planting the seeds for the USA as well. So I'm super excited to spill the beans a little bit more, but it's been a natural progression. And of course, when we went, and I'll show you this because you know about the book, right?
Yep.
When we did the graphics trucks across North America, graphics trucks, 3 of them on the roadways across North America with our partners, Penner and TurboGrafx. And, that has really increased our visibility and for the awards. So we are looking at USA coming soon.
Yes, that's where I'm at. Whatever I could do, I'm in your corner, sister. I love you and I appreciate you, what you're doing for women, what you're doing for the world, what you're doing for kids, what you're doing for young ladies. Keep shining your light. Anytime you have any announcements or anything like that, you always have a spot here on the Raw Unscripted show with me, whatever I could do to support you. We've got the universalwomensnetwork.com URL for you guys listening on the special podcast episode, www.universalwomensnetwork.com. Go there, check it out, find out all about what Monica's got going on there, contribute to it, become an advocate for it, become a volunteer with it, and let Monica know what it is that you can do in your particular area to bring about awareness for women, women's rights, what you're doing to advocate for that. And then what I can personally do as well. Let me know if there's people that that should be on the show here. Even to you, Monica, if there's, obviously, powerful women, I would love to have them here on the show and highlight what it is that they're doing. We could do a little special series, whatever it is, because I love what you're doing and I love what you're about. I love the fact that you are setting the example for your son. So I can't wait to be able to talk to him one day about you, maybe have you both on the show and just talk about that. So thank you. Any final parting thoughts before we end out this particular broadcast?
I just want to say thank you to you, Chris. When we talk about what you can do to champion for women, you provide opportunities like this. So, they can share their story and provide them the opportunity to connect. And of course, I look forward to having you on our podcast, our Woman of Inspiration podcast. And, I love the fact that this banner is here. This is so awesome. And, invite others in companies that are engaging. Like, we're working with companies that are committed to equity, diversity, inclusion with the SupportHER certification and, of course, nominations. We've got lots going on in our membership. So something for everyone. So I want to say thank you to you and looking forward to the journey ahead.
Yes. As our friend Serena Buffalino would say, yes. Monica, it's been a pleasure having you here. I'm going to place you backstage while I end out the show. Don't go anywhere so I can still have a chat with you, but thank you for being here. Thank you for shining your light.
Thank you so much, Chris.
You are welcome. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is a special broadcast of the Raw and Unscripted show. And as always, you can go to rawandunscripted.com. You can go back there and check out the past shows. We just got through doing a show last night. Actually, it's kind of interesting that Monica mentioned Patty. Patty has been my guest co-host for the last 3 episodes. She's like, she had such a good time doing it on my other show. She said, hey, can I bring some guests on here and have that? So you guys can go check out. We had a great conversation last night with D.O. Gibson. He's a rap artist out of Canada, a phenomenal person. We had a great conversation last night. So you can all go check them out. We're on unscripted.com. You can check out the podcast wherever podcasts are sold. And we'll be back to you again. This is what we do. We bring you special announcements. We bring you special discussions that you can sit there and take action on and do something about it in your particular life. It's one thing to sit by and go, oh, that was really motivational. That was really inspirational. But at the end of the day, what can you do? What can I do with this information? How can I share this out on my social media? Please share this out and say, hey, this is a great conversation, talking about how we can support women's rights and women's success, right? So whatever you guys can do for that, please let me know so I can thank you personally for that. So once again, go out there, be brilliant, stay raw and unscripted. I will see you guys here next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where you will have the best of what I can bring for you. I love you guys. Go out there and be brilliant. We'll see you next time.